Hi, it's the Silly Moustache here, and I'm going to talk about my obsession, my favourite guitars. But here's a little backstory. I started messing around with guitars, acoustic guitars, in the late 60s after being a drummer, and I discovered a flatmate who introduced me to some basics of American singer-songwriters and country and bluegrass. So I started focusing my interest, but I had no technique or anything. And move on to 1973, I changed my job and I doubled my salary. And within 12 months, I doubled it again. So I started buying and selling guitars. You see, I lived in West London, and so I had money in my pocket, so I could go to buy a newspaper that came out every Thursday lunchtime called The Melody Maker, and in the back it had classified small ads. Now that was how UK bands met up, got members together and things, but it also had small ads for buying and selling musical instruments, in particular guitars. So the regime was to buy the paper at midday and go back to the office and look for the small ads. And I was buying and selling mainly Martins. You see, because of bluegrass and things like that, you had to have a Martin. But we wanted to buy the guitars that we saw on American album covers, you know. So anyway, I was after Martin dreadnoughts. I didn't even know the difference between a D18 and a D28 or anything like that. It was said that Martins were the best you could buy, but hard to play, especially compared to their biggest competitor, which was the Levin Goliath dreadnought made in Sweden. But they were hard to play. Why was that? Two reasons. One, they were made new with high saddles, which was to facilitate the user to file down the saddle to his preferred action. The other thing was that there was a fashion for using heavy gauge, 14 to 59 gauge strings on dreadnoughts, presumably thinking that that would give them the maximum power. I don't know whether it happened, but it certainly caused guitars to be damaged, necks would bend, and neck resets were necessary, but there was no one around to do that sort of thing at that time. Now, in 1975, I moved out of London and found myself in a bluegrass area, and so I just had to have a Martin. And a picking part, a friend of mine that I started playing with in that area, one day I went over to see him, and he had just bought a Martin D35, 1973 D35, and I just bought a new D28. I knew that D35. It was formerly owned by a fiddle player in a band that I had once played dobro in. Well, a lot of discussion went on that evening and we swapped. I kept that D35 for 21 years and never had any work done it and never needed anything. And later I sold it to a friend, and it's still a great guitar. So fast forward to the 90s anyway. I collected some guitar related books, again not completely but largely about Martin guitars. Now I was sitting one evening with a friend of mine called Pat, who in my estimation is the finest dobro player in the UK, bar none, and we looked at this page in Walter Carter's book, A Complete History of Martin Guitars. This was the 1995 edition. In that middle there is a 1926 0045, right? So 0045, that means all the abalone and everything, but apart from the abalone, there's the proportions of that 12 fret slotted head guitar just seem to us perfection aesthetically. It wasn't about the sound, because it's a picture, but it just looked perfect. And that kind of started my focus. So, later I was playing my J40 at the time, a guitar which really didn't suit me, and I was opening for a gentleman called Isaac Guillory, who kindly lent me his D35S, which was a 12 fret wide-necked dreadnought by Martin, and it became my dream guitar. I searched for a guitar like that from 1996, when I sold my D35 to a friend to fund a purchase, and I searched until 1999. I wanted a Martin D18, D28, D35 stroke S with the 1 7/8 neck width, because that's what suited my hands. So I didn't find one. I just couldn't find one anywhere, and in the end, I was looking in a shop in Wapping in East London, and the sales guy there asked me what I was looking for, made some notes, and he gave me a call a little while later, and he said, if you're still looking for a 12 fret dreadnought, I might be able to help you. Come up on Saturday morning and bring everything you would care to trade in. Okay. And what he presented me with was a Santa Cruz, a Bourgeois, a Martin, and something called a Collings. Right. Now this is not the original one. The original one was made in 1999, first of two of the first Collings to come into the UK. The salesman bought the other one. So this was my dream. 1 13/16 nut width, 2 3/8 string spread, 25.5 inch scale. It gave me the power, but it also worked for my fingers. Okay, that's good. So I'm talking about Martin guitars here, but you know, now it changes to Collings, because Collings were making what Martin weren't at that time. So I'll put this on. So I'm going to put that down, and then I got my D28 12 fret style with that one, but I was also getting into Jimmy Rogers, and so the next thing I found was a 000 2H by Collings on sale at a shop about 50 miles away from me. And that was 2005. It's now 2025, and this is coming up to 25 years old, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's mainly my teaching guitar, but it's a kind of crossover, because I use light strings on it, but I can flat pick and I can finger pick. So what's next? I've got the dreads. I've got 3 dreads actually, and then I've got a 000. 00 would be nice, wouldn't it? A little 00. A 00 is a grand concert. The 000 is an auditorium. A 00. 2023. One turned up on eBay. I see these advertised 00s and O's, and I always cringe a little bit when I see someone flat picking it, or even worse, strumming it. I don't think they were designed for use with picks. I think they're a fingerstyle guitar. So I just can't stop playing it. Well, there we are. So I've got my dreadnought. I've got 3. I've got my 000. I've got my 00. And they're all Collings, but they're Martin designs, yeah? Wouldn't it be nice to have an O? That's a concert. Well, Martins now make one, but I haven't seen one yet, but Eastman's had these, and this was on sale in a shop in London that was closing down. So we did a bit of dealing over the phone and they sent me this, which is a perfect little guitar. And the only thing I've done with this is put a pick guard on it, or a scratch plate as we call it, and put some nicer pins on. And it's a very robust instrument. But did you ever get a 45, I hear you say? Did I say? Well, kind of, because in 2020, was it? I saw this on sale in the Netherlands, and it's an Eastman again, and it's an E40-00, but it's a 00, so it's exactly the same specs really as the 002H, but it's made in China. And it does have the bling on it, not quite a 45, but 41, 42, something like that. And I have to say, it is perfect. No problems with that at all. Lovely guitar. So there we are. My obsession with Martin guitars led me to Collings and Eastman guitars, which were made in the image of the fine designs that Martin made. So that is my little story of my little obsession, again with books, and I've got lots of other books about other brands and things like that, but these make me happy because they fit my hands and they are the sound and the feel and the ergonomics that I like. Enough, if you have been. Thanks for watching, and let me have your comments and questions, because I always like that. Oh, by the way, if you have any ideas for future videos, please send them to me in the comments. I listen and I do them. Take care. Bye.